Retro Rob plays everything.
Hey there gamers, Retro Rob here, and today I am remaking a video I made about 4 or 5 years ago on this, a fake Game Boy Advance SP. The original video was recorded at about 24 frames per second. It was very grainy. It didn't cover much really, but it did pretty well, and I'm kind of embarrassed about it. So I thought I would do a corrective video where I cover a little bit more about it, and I think it's actually going to be a shorter video because I'm going to try and blabber on less, you know, like I'm doing right now. Anyway, one of the main things I really forgot to cover on this is the front of the box. They are trying hard here. Game Boy Advance SP, brighter backlit screen, crash, mind over mutant. The right side of the box features a naughty bandicoot. The left side of the box. The top of the box. Brighter backlit screen. It says exactly the same thing again. Nice pick though. Decent quality printing as well, but unfortunately the box itself is kind of cheap. The bottom of the box is as black as the soul of the people who came up with this. Here's the back of the box. I love this. It's got an original Nintendo seal of quality. Also says copyright Nintendo. Well, I guess Mario's copyright Nintendo. Jeez. I'm gonna sue. Due to the characteristics of the LCD, there are some dots that do not light up or never turn off. However, please take note that that's not a defect. Yes, that is a defect. This set includes Game Boy Advance SP. No, it doesn't. AC adapter. Yes, it does. Instructions manual with warranty. Well, I'm pretty sure the warranty won't work. I can't remember if there's a manual in here. We'll take a look. Alright, I want to start with the fact that this was packed basically this way originally. Now, this is years later, okay? But there is very little difference between what we have here now and what was originally in the box. The box doesn't really fit the console very well, so it doesn't really protect it in transit. Oh hey, there is a Game Boy Advance SP manual. As I recall, yeah, it's just a photocopy of the original Game Boy SP manual. Check that out. That is amazingly pirate. I'm kind of impressed. I don't know if you can get a hold of these anymore, and I don't even know how feasible it would be to try and make this today, because this is completely pirate. I mean, just insane. Alright. There's the device itself. Comes with the Euro adapter. And a little thing to pop on to make it into a US adapter. Look how long that is. I always avoid these if I can. One thing to note, versus newer ones, notice how this uses a Game Boy-like charger as opposed to like a USB adapter. Kind of interesting. Alright, here we go. Alright, looking at the unit itself. Notice how it says Nintendo on it. They're not fooling around with this counterfeit. Looking at the front, there's a space for a cartridge port. You can play cartridges on it. It is not 100% accurate. We got a volume up and down slider. It's kind of stiff and weird feeling. It definitely does not feel right. Also, we've got shoulder buttons, and the shoulder buttons are not that bad. They feel okay. They don't feel original, but really, they're not that bad. Looking at the back, there is a link cable. I think we've tested this in the past, and it didn't work. I've heard on some models it did, but as I recall this particular one, it didn't. Now we've got an on and off switch. It's not momentary, it's just on, off. On the bottom, there's no real indicator that this isn't a real Game Boy. Now if you look, it says Game Boy SP AGS 001. We'll pop it open. Really hard to tell One of the telltale things is these buttons are super stiff and clicky. They don't feel quite right, and the D-pad's a little bit shallow. Does have select and start, also has lighting adjustment. Let's take a look at this next to the real thing so I can show you how close it is. To the right is a real Game Boy Advance. To the left is the fake one. And as you can see, the dimensions are super close. And these just look really, really alike. Look at this one, says Game Boy on the bottom. It's the fake one. But you can see differences for sure when you're looking really close. But yeah, they do look a lot alike, don't they? Right down to the ports. It's a pretty good forgery. However, when I lift them, a real Game Boy Advance, even here, I'll take the cartridge out just in case somebody says it's because of the cartridge, but if I lift this, I can definitely feel the difference between this one and this one. This one is significantly lighter. Let's power it up and take a look. See how it's a little slow? Also, the screen's flickering a little bit. I think that's because the charger's in. As I recall, whenever the charger's in, it does that. Alright, so here we are at the main menu. One of the nice things about the main menu is, as you can see, they put a little picture of the game on there. Come on, that's pretty cool. One of the negatives is that even though there are quite a number of games here, that 1000 is a big lie. That 1000 right up there, because it definitely does repeat after a while. This is a mix of Game Boy Advance and NES games. So these aren't all GBA games either. Yeah, there, we're back at Metal Slug again. Here's something interesting. If I hit the top left shoulder button, I can set the language. If I hit the top right one, I can set the time. How neat is that? Not that neat, really. Let's try playing something. I'm gonna put Doom in here and see how it plays. Alright, as you can see, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it absolutely is not running it like a real Game Boy Advance would. Look at how slow it is. Also, the sound's a little bit off. Another thing I'm going to note is the sampling rate on this seems to be really low. I'm not sure whether it is actually the speaker itself or whether it's the device. But this is not how Doom should run on a proper Game Boy Advance. Alright, for the sake of the brightness of the screen, I'm using my other Game Boy Advance, but you can see this is how Doom runs on a Game Boy Advance. It runs really pretty well, so it's pretty clear by how laggy and how cruddy the other one is that the other one is emulated, and it's not the greatest emulation on earth. Because I can get a lot of the modern emulators, even the cheap ones, to run this fairly decently. Yeah, just a night and day difference on the real thing. It does run SP games, but it doesn't run all of them well. Here's a little Road Rash, which I'm going to play really poorly because I'm playing it through the camera. But, as you can see, despite some cranky sound, the game itself plays pretty decently. It's not dropping a lot of frames if it's dropping any. And by the way, I'm not 100% sure this is the Game Boy Advance version. I think this might be Genesis emulation here. Ooh. The sound on this thing, it's not the greatest. However, you can play some Bubble Bobble too. I believe this is the Nintendo version. There we go. Graphics seem a little stretched too, don't they? Just a little bit. It looks nice though. I mean, the screen's pretty bright. It just sounds really pretty rough. As far as the controls go, you know, they seem to be working okay. I think I had a beef with them last time I covered this thing, but honestly, I've definitely felt a lot worse on clones. Controls are okay. Hey, I wonder if this is gonna run my Multicart. There we go, 369 in 1. Let's open that up and dim the lights. Thank you, lights. Let's fire this thing up. There we go. And it at least sees it. Let's try Super Mario Kart. It's gonna run it? I got a feeling not. It did run it! That is crazy! It gets a win for that. Pretty cool. I'll be darned. I really wasn't expecting that. Many of these of this time period would not run multi-carts. This one apparently does. What if I want to run my old Game Boy games? How about that? Will it run some original Game Boy games? That would be cool. No. No such luck. For the record, I did try it with several. Let's wrap it up with the titular Crash Bandicoot. Looking pretty good. You know, the screen actually does look pretty decent. There's not a whole lot of distortion on the Game Boy Advance games, which I kind of thought would be much worse. I definitely have seen worse, like on the RS-97 and some of those handhelds. It's adequately loud. Does this sound... You know, the sound is not absolutely perfect, but I think on this... I think on this game it's a little bit better than average. Yeah, this plays okay. Ugh. Keep going. Yeah, this seems to be playing either at speed or much closer to at speed than many of the other games have. Oops. Having a hard time seeing though. It's not the screen though, just my eyes. Alright, let's wrap this up and get a verdict. Alright, so what is the verdict on the Game Boy Advance SP knockoff clone? Here in 2019, well, the controls are way better than I remember them. They actually work quite well. They're way clickier. You're not going to mistake them for a real Game Boy Advance SP. The screen is very clear and bright. It looks very nice. When you're running GBA games, it is crisp and clear. However, on some of the Nintendo games, and I'm pretty sure that was a Genesis game, it was a little bit blurry. You could see it was a little bit off, but you know, it's meant to be a GBA, so I guess it's okay. Speaking of okay, what's not okay is the sound. It does sound very crackly and tinny. Even in Game Boy Advance games, it just doesn't sound quite right. And speaking of Game Boy Advance games, you saw how Doom ran pretty bad. It was losing a lot of frames while running it, so this is clearly an emulation device and not the real thing. Also, remember that it could not run Game Boy Color or Game Boy games. I did test it with several of them. Now, as far as the usability of this thing now, there's really a reason why you don't see them much anymore, and that reason is that the price on a backlight modded Game Boy Advance or a real Game Boy Advance SP has really come down quite a bit over the last few years, and that's kind of crowded out this market. You can buy the real thing refurbished for what you can get this at right now, if you can even find it. All in all, I'd only recommend it for somebody who really likes to collect weird and eccentric devices, not for mainstream use. I want to thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in a couple days. Bye.